We're often asked the question, what makes a great supply chain? We see supply chains out there that are very reactive. You could just tell they're struggling to keep pace with the business, always a step behind. We also see supply chains that you would probably say are actually fairly stable. They hit the core metrics, but that's about it. We look for top performing companies to have supply chains that are actually a true business partner, ultimately leading to a competitive advantage for the company where possible. What does it mean to have your supply chain as a business partner? Well, a business partner is really doing four main things. First, the supply chain is in complete alignment with the business strategy. There's an understanding of what the strategy is expecting the supply chain to deliver on in order for the company to be successful. Second, we're looking for a supply chain that takes a truly integrated end-to-end view of the business. We see a lot of supply chains out there that actually operate more like a collection of functions, but aren't really actually integrating across the entire end-to-end supply chain. The third thing we look for in a business partner is a supply chain that is a true source of value, a supply chain that is bringing opportunities proactively to the business, ways to create value, and really a supply chain that can be counted upon to generate productivity gains every year in excess of inflation. And then fourth, and not least important, is a supply chain that is actually executing on the core requirements for customer service. We look at service reliability, perfect order stats, those types of things to make sure that the supply chain is predictable and reliable. So there's no debating that a supply chain as a business partner is really the best way to make sure that the business is getting the most from the supply chain. But the next question then is, well, how do you know what type of a supply chain you have and where you should look for value? We look in three main areas to answer that question. First, we look at the core operating statistics for the supply chain to try to see if those are in line with the strategy. We look at total landed cost. We look at service level, agility, perfect order type statistics, and capital efficiency. That gives you a quick look at just how the supply chain is performing. But then we look at the second lens. We look to try to see how well the supply chain is operating as an integrated supply chain. We often find a lot of value in the seams within an organization. So we look at many things. Examples would be the way design is plugged in with the supply chain to manage SKUs and to make sure that you're designing for manufacturability in a low-cost way. We look at procurement to see if procurement is looking at the total cost of ownership and not just individual pricing on what they're procuring. There's a number of things that we look at, but that integrated supply chain is really, really key for capturing the most value. And then third, we recognize that supply chains are just not operating in static environments. So we're looking to understand where there are changes in the macro environment, regulatory changes, changes in the strategy, shifts in sources of supply. And we really want to make sure that the supply chain is just ready to adjust to those changes and react when they occur. Looking at those three lenses gives us a really good sense of where to focus for value, and it really tells us what we need to do to create a business partner for the supply chain. That leads to just a natural set of next steps that focus on quick win opportunities, process redesign opportunities, and really a lot of focus on the operating model to make sure that the supply chain is truly plugged into the business in the right way. Decisions are being made in the right places. So no doubt, the way to get the most value from your supply chain is really to make sure that you have a business partner.